Om Shamaya Namah, Om Satyaramaya Namah, Om Nirvikalpaya Namah, Om Viraktaya Namah, Om Atindraya Namah, Om Satyasandaya Namah, Om Pavitraya Namah, Om Madhurasvabhavaya Namah, Om Suranandaya Namah, Om Nandanaya Namah, Om Prasaratmane Namah, Om Bhaktanidaye Namah, Om Sakshaye Namah, Om Samatmaye Namah, Om Sadayogine Namah, Om Haraye Namah, Om Sutapaye Namah, Om Somyaye Namah, Om Guyaye Namah, Om Vimuttatmaye Namah, Om Gabiraye Namah, Om Guptaye Namah, Om Atmaramaye Namah, Om Srinivasaya Namah, Om Devaya Namah, Om Jyotidharaye Namah, Om Dhanyaye Namah, Om Gurave Namah, Om Guratikamaya Namah, Om Ganaye Namah, Om Bhagavate Namah, Om Arisharana Margadashakaya Namah, Om Kutasajattakaya Namah, Om Aviprayaya Namah, Om Sarvamata Samatyaya Namah, Om Kshamekatavavardakaya Namah, Om Premavatara Sri Vishwananda Swami Namah. Ato Diva Avantuno Yato Vishnu Vichakrame Trajivya Sapta Namapi Hiram Vishnu Vichakrame Kretani Dade Padam Samo Namasya Bhagun Sure Trihini Pada Vishakrame Vishnu Gopadavya Ato Dharmani Dharyane Vishnu Karmani Pashyata Yato Vritani Paspase Indrasya Yuja Saka Tad Vishnu Paramam Paragum Sada Pashanti Surya Viva Chakshurantatam Tad Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagruvagum Sasavindate Vishnuya Paramaparam. Vishwananda Prachodayat. Om Premavaraya Vidmahi Sakurudevaya Dhimai Tano Vishwananda Prachodayat. Om Premavaraya Vidmahi Sakurudevaya Dhimai Tano Vishwananda Prachodayat. Om Bhakritanga Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvikam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Om Bhuvasva Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimai Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Bhuvasva Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimai Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Bhuvasva Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimai Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Shri Krishna Vishnu Madhusudana Ketapare Narayana Achyuta Trivikrama Chakrapane Vijani Sajadara Sridhara Vasudeva Gopala Haraye Tava Suprabhatam Shri Rukminisha Vamanasha Hare Murare Radesha Gopisha Surupa Bhavani Vandya Shri Dvarakashaya Vaikunta Pate Bhuvane Kamurte Gopala Deva Haraye Tava Suprabhatam Meenakite Kamalarupa Varamurte Devi Kramaya Bhuvane Rama Rama Shri Rama Krishna Yarunandana Karti Rupa Gopala Krishna Haraye Tava Suprabhatam Govinda Madhava Mukunda Parataresha Damodara Chadarananda Kadari Shori Gopa Gopi Jana Sampritarina Bando Gopi Jana Priyare Tava Suprabhatam Shri Radhi Sai Bhujagari Patal Pasai Satpatari Sadana Shai Ramanga Shai Shri Gopa Vama Murutarpa Sutari Shai Gopa Vallavare Tava Suprabhatam Shri Kashyapati Shukanarada Gotamade Ramashi Shangamani Shangava Bharatesho Tishtanti Devya Bhavadashana Bhagyaheto Gopala Sekharare Tava Suprabhatam Mandara Jari Tulasidara Malikadyahe Malani Anjali Pute Samadaharante Tishtanti Padma Vadatara Tare Mudita Radha Manoharaye Tava Suprabhatam Vedattayam Patati Gotama Kana Guya Gayanti Sakuna Gano Marada Savaga Sankirtayanti Tava Nama Kadashi Shesha Shri Naradadi Rashaya Tava Suprabhatam Govardhanodharana Gopa Kishora Gopa Gopi Jananita Suvesha Bhavani Kota Trilokya Mohana Sumangala Divya Deva Shri Rukminisha Varada Tava Suprabhatam Shri Vatsachinya Sharanagata Parijata Bhattati Vanjana Gopakara Dina Bando Priyanta Jayati Jana Priya Divya Rupa Shri Nanda Gopatanaya Tava Suprabhatam Padmaksha Padma Mukha Padma Dara Prameya Padmalaya Sharira Padma Nivasa Shori Padmo Bhavarti Sura Sevida Pala Padma Padmalinata Haraye Tava Suprabhatam Vrindanta Levi Aranaya Mahendra Vandya Vanda Padapa Ratinya Sudesha Rupa Chandana Naya Sida Chandana Lipna Deha Govinda Yadava Hare Tava Suprabhatam Shri Nanda Nandana Yashoda Kumara Tira Mayangalina Ravishona Supushpahara Nilamburara Susharira Ramavihara Gopala Shiva Haraye Tava Suprabhatam Shri Vaishri Jambavati Satya Suganti Bhadra Shri Mitra Vinda Divasha Prabhu Putra Karyahe Tishtanti Divya Bhavameta Vasevanada Gopi Mana Priyare Tava Suprabhatam Shri Krishna Achyutananda Mukunda Shori Radha Manohara Janardana Chakrapane Ramani Divya Munayuna Nishambadanti Brahmi Muhurta Samaye Tava Suprabhatam Shri Krishna Suprabhatam Ye Patanti Anisha Bhuri Krita Mahapapa Shri Krishna Kraidura Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigrah Dhanajirajir Govinda Sarvakarana Karana Govindamadi Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamadi Purusham tamam bhajami, Chintamani prakara samasukar pariksha, Raksha videshu suravira vipalayantam, Lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamana, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Venum panantamaravindradaraya taksham, Bharavatam samasitam mujasundarangam, Kandapakoti kamaniya vishesha shobham, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Alola Chandrakara Sarvanamaya Vamshi, Ratnangaram Pranayakeni Kalavilasa, Shyamam Tribangalaritam Niyata Prakasham, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Anganiyasya sakalendriya hritimati, Pashanti panti kalayanti chiram jaganti, Ananda chimaya sarushvala vigrahasya, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Advaitam Achyutam Anadiyamantarupam, Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam cha, Vedeshu Durlabham Aduraram Bhakto, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Pantastu Koti Shatavaksara Sampragamyo, Vayogatapi Manaso Munipongavana, Sopyastiya Prapagasinya Vichinta Tatve, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Ekopya Sora Charitum Jagaranda Koti, Yashakshirasha Jagaranda Shayayakanta, Andantarasta Paramanu Shayantarasya, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Yadbhavavavitadiyo manujastateva, Samprapya rupa mahimāshanayana bhusha, Shukteyameva nigama pratidastu bhante, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavis, Kaviya eva nijarupaya kalavihi, Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhoto, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Premanjana Shurita Bhakti Virochanena, Sankasaleva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti, Yashama Sundarama Shintya Gunasvarupam, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Ramadi Murti Shukalani Amena Tisha, Nanavatarama Karopu Vaneshu Kintu, Krishna Svayam Samabhavan Paramapumanyo, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Yasya Prabhava Bhavato Jagaranda Koti, Koti Svashesha Vasudani Vibhuti Dinam, Tam Brahmanishkaramanantam Ashesha Bhutam, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Govindamani Purusham tamam bhajami, Maya Yasya Jagananda Sata Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manashu Ya Pranina Pratipalam Svaratam Upetya Lila Itena Bhuvanani Jayati Jasnam Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Golokanam Ninichadam Vitale Chatasya Devi Maheshari Rama Suteshu Teshu Kete Prabhavani Chayami Jasyayena Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Shrishti Shrishti Prayaya Sadhana Shakti Rega Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibhati Durga Ishana Rupamapi Yasya Chatesha Tesha Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Chiram Yatadati Vikara Vishesha Yoga Sanjayate Naitatapati Asti Heto Yashambhutamapi Tata Samapetikaya Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Jeepa Shireva Ida Santarama Bhupetya Jeepayate Vivita Hetu Samana Dama Yastadike Vaita Vishnutaya Vivati Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Yakaranarajale Bhajati Skayoga Nidramananta Jagananda Saroma Kupa Adara Shakti Mavalamya Parasvamurti Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Yasye Kanishvasita Kala Matavalamya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagarandanata Vishnu Mahansaya Yasya Kala Vishesho Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Aspanya Tashma Sakaleshu Nijeshu Tesha Sriyam Kriyat Prakatayat Tapitatva Tatra Ramaya Isha Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Yat Pada Paravayugam Vinidaya Kumbha Vanpe Pranama Samaye Sadanadi Raja Vignan Vihantu Malamasya Jagatrayasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Agnimahi Jaganamambu Maruti Shasya Kalastatam Mamanasiti Jagatrayani Yasma Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yamcha Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Yakshashuresha Savita Sakaha Grahana Raja Samasta Suramurti Ashesha Teja Yansanjaya Brahmata Samrita Kara Chakro Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Damoda Papa Nichaya Shutaya Sapamse Brahmadi Gita Padagalvadayasya Jiva Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Yasvinda Gopa Madhavendra Mahosvakama Vandana Rupa Parabhajara Matanoti Karmani Niradi Kintu Chabhakti Bhaja Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhaja Shisya Dasya Sahishim Tanuha Purite Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anatiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami.
Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Good morning, Jai Gurudev. Srimad Bhagavatam, Book 2, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Verse 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Atmaya Mamrade Rajan Parasyanu Bhavatmanaha Nagadeta Tasambandha Swapna Dashtur Ivanjasa. Shri Shukadev Goswami said, O King, unless one is influenced by the energy of the Supreme Lord, there is no meaning to the relationship of a pure soul in pure consciousness with the material body. That relationship is just like a dreamer's seeing his own body working. Okay, so Shukadev is talking to King Parikshit. King Parikshit has to die. So this is in Canto 2. So it's probably at the beginning of the week. He may have still 5 days left to live. And Shukadev is saying this to him. And it reminds us of Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, the Sankhya Yoga, is you have to separate between the body, the physical body, and your own self. Otherwise, he says, it's like you live in a dream. Yeah. There is a saying in marketing, in the departments of the companies in the world, the corporate world, you don't know the budget that you spend on efficient marketing. Because in the end, you don't know who gets touched by the effort that you make. Maybe today we have more analytics to track certain behavior of direct marketing, but when it comes to brand marketing, then it's quite irrational. You don't really know. And I think it was Henry Ford or some famous American industrialist who said, you know, we spend a fortune on marketing, and it's good, but half of it is always a waste. We just don't know which half. And when I read this verse here, where everyone in the crowd, where everyone online would agree, yes, we are not the body, we are living like a dream. You are the soul, heard it 1 billion times already. And yet what is the bottom line of how many people do actually live like that? 50% would be a very good ratio. We just don't know which 50%. Okay, anyway, so I'd like always to talk a little bit about more practical things. And today, as this verse, it reminded me about care. You know, how much do you care? How much do we care? And ultimately, how much do we care about God? And especially in this path where, at least I was very surprised to get to know who and how God really is, because as I might have said before, to me God was more the all-powerful but yet formless love, divine love, supreme love. And maybe we're not even so far away from that. I mean, probably any religion or any doctrine that might deviate from love is not in the truth. So we do believe in love, and Guruji said on top of that, that love has a form. And when you dig a little deeper in the scripture of your, for example, the Purusha Suktam is the same. He says that all there is, it has a supreme form of a total body. And that body or that form, which is infinite, is called Purusha or Purushottama. And then here in the verse, Shukadev, he says to the king, when you haven't really been touched by that supreme person, when you haven't really felt anything, and you still believe that everything is a coincidence, and you live day in, day out, like a hamster in the wheel, he doesn't say that, but I said that, then what's the point? You know, we could say also, let's say many people come to Guruji, and at some point you must feel something, because otherwise it will be hard to stay and hard to stay committed over the years. And it might be enough you feel one moment something that keeps you going for many years. But as he also said, you know, there's so much outside worship. Most of the people, they do outside worship in the world. Even if you look to India, it's all about outside show. That people show how great is the ritual, how much did you donate, how much are you in front, are you in the newspaper later on. Not everyone, because so many saints are still present in India and maybe in other countries also. But it's very much about that. The touch is feeling. This love, it's missing. You know? And when it's missing, we want to compensate. When it's missing, when, for example, you don't know what is love, you might not really have received love, then you don't know, because you don't have any example to copy, right? This is how we learn. So let's say you grew up in a mess. Then this is what you learn. Of course, you bring the mess from previous incarnations. That has to be said. That's why you are born in a mess, unless you are Prahlad. But mostly it fits that what mindset you finished off with in the past incarnation, that's what you get started in this one. So when you're born in a mess, then of course you bring certain aspects to that how much you are actually affected by your own karma, by your own willingness to love, about how you are able to receive love in this life. For example, when you go Western modern psychology, they very often don't go all the way. They say, okay, this child hasn't received the love that a child needs in order to grow up. That's why he's like this today. Become a murderer, or maybe not a murderer, maybe become a very good person. But then Eastern spirituality goes a little further, that you have to look of what the person is bringing into this life. And this is exactly the mindset that we finished off in the past life. We start with in this life. And then it's not only about receiving love, but it's to look at a little bit closer, look at our own openness and willingness to actually really love as well. Because the law stands that when you give, you receive. And when you give love, you receive love. And with Guruji, he shows and reflects that very exactly to each person as to how and how much and in which way you approach him. That's what you get. So some people approach him in a maybe personal way. That's what they get. Some people don't. They approach him in a more formless way. That's what they get. Some people maybe do both. That's also what they get. It says in Vishnu Sahasranam, and I think in all, Bhagavad Gita as well, the Lord, he reflects. So back to that love, when we don't have it, how do you do it? Knowing about that you've finished off with a certain mindset in the past life and you take that into this life, that will mean that at some point we accept that we haven't been loved, or at least in the way that we would have wanted, and that we also accept that it's due to the reason because we haven't loved, possibly, potentially, in past lives, so that we bring a certain closeness to the table which gets reflected now. and talking about healing, talking about understanding, talking about the point of acceptance, which Guruji often refers to, then this is where the journey starts. And this is where the journey starts in Bhakti Marga, that regardless of how much openness to love and how much big desire you bring to be loved, at some point, we all come to that point of accepting as it is right now. And I do believe firmly that when you truly accept, then you suddenly see so many good things in your life that previously, maybe comparing yourself with others, maybe having fantasies about how it should be, but that are quite detrimental to how you are actually. But that when you start to accept how it actually is under Guruji's guidance, you see how many golden moments he gives you, not only one time per day, but maybe a full sequence of golden moments every day. And they might be very different to the other person's golden moments, but they're your golden moments. In Haribhakta Sampradaya, we also believe you have your relationship with Bhagavan. I mean, in order to have that, speaking of how many people do actually live like that, in order to live like that, of course, you must be strong. Strong to not get deviated what the other people do. Strong to not get jealous when the other people receive and you say, no, I didn't receive anything. And you must be, I would say, also exact and fair in your perception as to how much you receive every day, which is right for you, and how much you can handle. And then that brings us to starting how to love. Not expecting to be loved anymore, because we have seen due to several reasons it's not the full way. But the motto of Bhakti Marga is also just love. Do it yourself. Start somewhere. And the best is you start where you really are. Yeah? And it's not the motto, just receive love. Just come to Darshan, always receive love. No, the motto would rather be, come to Darshan until you have reached a certain point when you yourself, you can start loving. And that is the happiness we're all looking for. It is not to be loved, but ultimately to be able to love. Maybe to be able to love like God. Because we do say, also in our Siddhanta, it's the same love. You're just not the king, you are part of the king's great body. We are all small aspects of the Purushottama. And the concept or the idea of bridging a disconnect or to reconnect to God is all wrong. Because there's never been a disconnect. And that also requires a strong and humble character to actually say that you are really part of God. Before you reach that point of how to love, before you reach the point of maybe becoming a little bit more professional in it, this is how I would say to love is to cope with life. It's not to fall in each other's arms or whatever is propagated today as that love. Hashtag 14th of February. But love is that force, that supreme force that lets you overcome Maya, the problematics of Maya, the delusion of Maya, and for that you need to be strong. And that strength is called love, is to cope with life until the point where you master every day. How beautiful it is to see. I think Kabir, he once said when he was with Guruji on the pilgrimage or for Darshan, a tour in Turkey, he talked in a satsang about Guruji just danced through the week. That is mastery. Like when everything happens so effortlessly in such a supreme way. I mean, look at Guruji's daily life. I mean, just 1 hour out of his life is so much more perfect and supreme because he knows how to love. And that's the gift he wants to give us as well. And that's why we're sitting in the training camp, how to love, how to cope with every day, how to cope with life. Now, last but not least, let me come to these points. If you don't know how to love yet, or if you're completely confused about it, I sometimes relate to that trick that I played on the residents going around, and I asked, do you have love for me? And I was seeing the different reactions. And the first one was they gave me food. So even when I went to the supermarket, you see the different brand names and the product names, whatever you, and some are called even paradise chocolates, whatever feeling you want to associate with the food. But it's not love. So when we are not yet at that point, when we're still childish and we want to have love, we want to take it inside, instead of bringing what's already inside, bring it out, then the tendency to eat and overeat is probably there. It is one of many, many ways how to compensate lack of love. Not lack of how you are loved, but also lack of how you potentially could love yourself, but you know you don't do it. So we don't live like the Master in that centeredness, in that knowledge that we are the soul, but as the verse says above, then we are living in that dream world of thinking that we are our body. Yeah, and that pertains to every one of us. So food is a great, great compensation, and it's real. It's not a judgment, actually, because the soul and the consciousness, you always know how actually you could love, and you always get a perfect scan every day of how you should have actually loved, how much the potential in the situations was there to love. And in the end of life, you also get that when you in front of Chitragupta, this inner capacity to record everything, and you get a scan of all your life and how you could have loved. That's the only thing that mattered. And if we don't go into it, if we are coward, if we are too proud, or if we are in whatever way not willing to love, and maybe also that is not a judgment, because you need time, maybe, it's okay. But then very often this temptation is to balance, to compensate. Yeah, and that is very often with food. Some people also like to talk too much. Yeah, and that is also an indicator for listen to me, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. I have so many great things to say because I don't know how to love yet. Although Guruji, he said, for many years actually I didn't talk so much. Actually from the very beginning of the mission, which is now almost 20 or even a little bit longer ago, before even Bhakti Marga, he said, I didn't give all the satsangs that I need today, but today I have to give it because people cannot take it in a simple way. And just love, as a message, is so super simple. I mean, what you have to do. He even said, just love is the essence of everything. In every book that we publish as Bhakti Marga official, you see it in the back or in the front of the book. Just love, the essence of everything, Paramahamsa Vishwananda. I mean, how and why would he say? So that means that everything that he gave since, and everything that he's going to give in whatever form, the essence of it will always be just love. So why not go to that essence? Yeah. Because it's not that easy. Some people, when they're married and they don't know how to talk to each other anymore, they just have sex. And they tell each other they still love each other and they're there for a moment, but there's also when the lack of love is there and you don't really know how to love. Again, it's not a judgment, but it's an art to be able to love, and the tendency also to compensate is there. Let's be active outside. Let's do something. Let's show to each other how active and engaged we are, but inside it's not really like this. No? Shopping. Shopping is a great way how to compensate. It reminds me of a tour when we were in India with Guruji. I was still very fresh here, and it was amazing. There was a group of women on that trip, as always. They were affluent, and they had a lot of cash to spend. And it was amazing how on the first days on the trip, how busy they were going to all the shops. They wouldn't have nice dresses, all the things, thinking about themselves. Yeah. And we could say this could have been a compensation of you don't really know how to love. And now came the trick that Guruji, he turned it around and he said, now you buy stuff for the temple now. When you go You like so much to go shopping, at least go shopping for God. And that's how you transform things into yoga. Yeah? So whatever you have, you can transform it into yoga by adding the two words for God. And that's what they did. So instead of, they didn't have the time to go to the fashion stores, etc., but every morning, because with Guruji on pilgrimage, you visit so many temples, they bought the tulsi gardens, the flowers, the coconuts, they took care of having the donations ready, etc. It was amazing to see. So the same thing actually persisted, but it was not a compensation anymore. But it was, let's say, what also refers to that verse, you become a little bit more aware that you're the soul and not the body. And knowing about that you are the soul, and even knowing that you are part of God, it doesn't happen by, yes, I know it. Yeah. When you ask Guruji, could I do this or should I do that? He very often says, I don't feel it. Or he even says to you, how do you feel it? So it points to the direction that the ultimate experience is a feeling. It's not a knowing, but it's a knowing through feeling. You feel it that it's right. You feel it should be that way. In the same way, you feel that it is right to be the soul. We kind of feel it also. It's wrong to identify with the mind or with the body. It just doesn't make sense on the feelings level. Yeah, I could close a satsang here, but I want to add a small topic which is not directly associated. But interestingly, I received a video yesterday of a show where they demonstrated how computers can read the mind, maybe supported by AI. And we should be aware that everything that you see in public, it's actually an old-timer already, because whatever is being released, it was developed maybe 20 or even 25 years ago. As you see with the weapons. When weapons get officially introduced, the technology is already 20 or 25 years old and was tested far back. So I was watching, in that consciousness, I was watching that video and said, how is it possible like the mind can read, that the computer can read your mind? And it was amazing, because it is true, also what is said in the Gita, chapter 9 actually, that to have the image of the Lord in your mind, it is not just like that. Krishna says that's action. Action is not with the hands, with the feet. Action is with the mind. So it is real. We do have a cinema. We do have a projection canvas in our head. And actually, machines, they're able to read it. I was thinking of the new S-Class of Mercedes. You go in there and it's a full computer constantly observing you. They have the camera watching you, you watch left, right, and accordingly the technology in the car adapts to the driver. But it's a complete system to watch and read every move. And when I rent a car sometimes to drive somewhere, the car is not a car anymore. It's just full of technology, you know. And the phone. There was once an experiment what they did in England when not even cameras were used in a house anymore, but they just put sensors. And they got a complete data replica of the house. They quantified all the data that was collected in the house. And then they experimented around of people moving in the house. So even without camera, but the sensors knew and predicted behavior of what's happening exactly in real time in that house. And then, of course, AI can make conclusions from that. So what does it mean for a bhakta? Why did I put it at the end of the satsang? Because it's true. Ultimately, the Gita says you have to dwell your mind in the Lord. And it might sound scary to us. It might sound scary to those people who find the world as their home. It says, the home is becoming ever more uncomfortable and controlled by the evil mind. And that's true. But to say for the bhakta who is not home in this world, but you're home in the Lord, more and more and more it even stands the timeless message, the technological message of the Gita actually, which means you have to have the feet of the Guru, the feet of the Lord in our mind. And the AI game, the robotic drama, which we are already in, it's not coming, but it's already happening, is just another motivator actually to really do it. Because, as said, machines even are able to read what's in your mind. And to conclude, maybe it's the real way how to dwell your mind in the Lord is to keep that inside image. Yeah, so these were some thoughts on love, how to love, not only to receive love, and how to actually realize that supreme love is because you don't have God as your father and mother in this life. You have parents and they have faults like we all do. So who can show you how to love supremely is only the Lord himself. And like this, maybe as a conclusion, put the feet in your minds. Jai Gurudev.
Gurudev Sri Vishwananda Gurudev. Om Gurudev, Gurudev Sri Vishwananda Gurudev. 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 Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Sitaram. Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Sitaram. Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Sitaram. Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Sitaram. Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Gurudev, Gurudev, Gurudev Sri Vishwananda Gurudev. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Ramanuja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Yatiraja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Ramanuja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Yatiraja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Yatindraya Karunakaraya, Mangala Mangala me, Yatindraya Karunakaraya, Mangala Mangala me, Rapati Dharmaya Radhaya, Mangala Mangala me, Rapati Dharmaya Radhaya, Mangala Mangala me, Ramanuja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Yatiraja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Ramanuja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Yatiraja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Sharigrama Pratishtitaya, Mangala Mangala me, Sharigrama Pratishtitaya, Mangala Mangala me, Tridandadari Gorakrachaya, Mangala Mangala me, Tridandadari Gorakrachaya, Mangala Mangala me, Ramanuja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Yatiraja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Ramanuja, Ramanuja, Mangala Mangala me, Yatiraja, Ramanuja, विचारे जो जावे फल पावे दुख बिन से मन का स्वामी दुख बिन से मन का सुख संपत्ति करावे सुख संपत्ति करावे कष्ट मिटे तन का मोंदे जगदीश रे माता पिता तुम मेरे शरण गाँव में की सकी स्वामी शरण गाँव में की सकी तुम बिना और न दूजा तुम बिना और न दूजा आश करूँ में की सकी मोंदे जगदीश रे तुमको रन परमात्मा तुम अंतरयामी स्वामी तुम अंतरयामी पार ब्रह्म परमेश्वर पार ब्रह्म परमेश्वर तुम सबके स्वामी मोंदे जगदीश रे तुम करुणा के सागर तुम पालन करता स्वामी तुम पालन करता मैं सेवक तुम स्वामी मैं सेवक तुम स्वामी कृपा करो बरता मोंदे जगदीश रे तुम एक गोचर सबके प्राणपति स्वामी सबके प्राणपति किस विधि मिलो दयामय किस विधि मिलो कृपामय तुमको मैं कुमति मोंदे जगदीश रे दीन बंधु दुखहर्ता तुम रक्षक मेरे स्वामी तुम रक्षक मेरे करुणा हर्ता बराहो करुणा हर्ता बराहो शरण परा तेरे मोंदे जगदीश रे विषय विकार मिटाओ पापा रो देवा स्वामी पापा रो देवा शारदा भक्ति बढ़ाओ शारदा प्रेम बढ़ाओ सत्तर की सेवा मोंदे जगदीश रे तन मन धन सब है तेरा स्वामी सब कुछ है तेरा स्वामी सब कुछ है तेरा तेरा तुझको अर्पण तेरा तुझको अर्पण ना लागे मेरा मोंदे जगदीश रे मोंदे जगदीश रे स्वामी जय जगदीश रे आठ जनों के साथ रास जनों के साथ क्षण विदूर करे ओम जय जगदीश रे मन चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी ओ चाकर राखो चाकर राखो चाकर राखो जी चाकर राखो चाकर राखो चाकर राखो जी माने चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी श्यामा मन चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी गोविंद मन चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी गिरधारी लाला चाकर राखो जी पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणा त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वा मम देव देव त्वमेव सर्वा मम देव देव गोविन्द असतो मा सद्गमय Anasoma Jyotirgamaya Nityoma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Jai Bolo Shri Lakshminarayan Bhagavan ki
Jai.
Sri Bhutabhrteshwarnath Mandir ki
Jai.
Sri Radha Krishna Kanelal ki
Jai.
Matar Kriya Babaji ki
Jai.
Shri Manujacharya ki
Jai.
Jai Bolo Sadgurudeva Sri Swami Vishwananda Mahaprabhu ki
Jai. Om Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Paraya Paramapurushaya Parakarma Matri Yantra Tantra Ushada Susastrani Samara Samara Nijo Munchaya Munchaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahasudarshanaya Dipti Jvala Pitaya Sarvajishvana Umpan Parishmaye Parabrahmane Parajyotishe Swaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Jai Jai Shri Radhe Jai Jai Shri Radhe Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam Venkataramana Govinda
Govinda.
Gopikachavana Smaranam Govinda
Govinda.
Bhaktavatsala Govinda
Govinda.
Govinda